Okay.
Great.
Okay.
Welcome everybody to our next Housesit Hangout for Housesit Match. Lovely to have you all with us. As you know, we have these conversations from time to time with people who have tried house sitting, people who are interested in house sitting, whether they are house sitters or homeowners and pet owners. And today what I'd like to do, if possible, is just ask everyone to go around and introduce themselves, just a quick word or two about who they are and why they're interested, or if they are currently house sitting or doing house sitting with as a homeowner. So please go ahead. Jenny, do you want to start off? Tell us where you are and who you are.
Okay, yep. Jenny, I'm weathering COVID in Mexico, and I've been house sitting for 5.5 years. So I'm a permanent nomad, permanent gypsy.
Fantastic. So no fixed abode, but currently house sitting is your sign.
Absolutely, it is.
Brilliant. Isabella, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, I am Lamia's friend, and I've never tried house sitting in any shape or form, but I'm quite keen to find out more, to be able to recommend people and see in the future, you know, maybe some for myself. I just want to find out a little bit more.
Of course, that's great. Thanks, Isabella, for joining us. And Ray, tell us about yourself.
Well, I have a daughter for 7 years, and she's in Portales News, and she's teaching there. She does business studies, and she's been renting all this time, and I want her to look maybe for something, maybe in the house sit, but in the next year or so, then she'll have to buy something because she doesn't want to come back to Ireland. I also have a son who last week, who's 3 dogs and a cat, a son and a daughter, and he wants to up sticks and move to Portales, Palmanova, look for a house for the first year and then buy a place. So that's why I'm keen to get every angle.
Well, thank you. Thank you for using this as part of your research portfolio. I'm really pleased about that. Well, we have lots of homeowners in that area and house sitters, so we've got some stories to share. So thank you, Ray.
Yes, so welcome.
And Zoe, now you have some experience and you came to us a few weeks ago, actually, for the first time. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, I'm relatively new to the house sitting scenario. My partner and I have been doing it for about a year now, and thoroughly enjoying it. It's a really great way of traveling. I love animals, so we've had some very successful house sits so far. I think the longest one has been Amsterdam, which was for 3 weeks over Christmas and New Year. And yeah, really enjoying it. Obviously, it's been quieter over the last few months, but I think things are starting to kind of happen again, aren't they? I don't know whether everyone else is finding that.
Things are beginning to happen again. If I can pick up at this point, we've had some inquiries, France, Spain, some in the UK, but mainly France and Spain in our network. The French are actively seeking to go away, whether it's in France or outside. And the Spanish, of course, or the Brits, the expats living there, are also on the move. So we're getting lots of inquiries now, people renewing their accounts and so on. So that's it's an exciting time, actually.
Okay.
And now what's interesting, Zoe, is you've always used house sitting, certainly in the last year, as you've explained to me, as a holiday. So you've used it as time out from your busy schedule, because you're actually a landlord and an entrepreneur. So you have several businesses on the go. And this for you is kind of an affordable break, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose I've always looked to be a volunteer towards animals. And I didn't think I was quite cut out to work at rescue places. So I kind of saw this as an enjoyable way to give something back to the pet community. So you could actually say the holiday side has been secondary, albeit I do choose places and houses and locations and pets that I want to look after. But for me, it was my way of giving something back, which I've always wanted to do. So I suppose I've come in from quite an interesting angle, but everyone's got their own ideas around it. And I think we're all giving back for whatever reason we do it. So.
Well, that's a lovely thought, actually. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
And now, Jenny, what started you on your 5-year journey, your round the world tour?
Well,
You have visited many countries, haven't you?
Yes, a few. I think I'm up to about 78. Not all in 5 years.
Oh, you've
not
been
all
busy.
in 5 years. No, probably about 30 or so in the last 5 years. But what started it? The time spoke to me. The time felt right, and actually, you know what it was? A friend of mine told me how much I could rent my house for in Sydney, and I went. And I thought, well, there is my passport to traveling. And, I started off in Myanmar just as a traveller. And then very good friends of mine are permanent house sitters too. And they said, well, why aren't you house sitting? And I thought, oh, why aren't I? So I did. My first house sit was in the Seychelles. I adopted the strategy because I didn't have any history and I didn't have any references. I targeted last minutes because I had the opportunity, I had no time requirements or restrictions. And so I just went for last minutes for people that were in difficult situations. And I did I did half a dozen of those, and those gave me my international references. And so after that, I started to have a good portfolio to work from. So what was meant to be 18 months turned into 5.5, and I reckon maybe another 3 years. I don't know. I love being a gypsy.
Well, that's fantastic. And now, so had you had pets yourself before you went house sitting?
Look, I've had cats, dogs, birds. I'm a big bird lover. But my father used to have a farm. He used to have a sheep farm, and my uncles used to have sheep and cattle farms. And so, I've had a lot of land experience. So I must admit, I have been attracted to a lot of off-grid and farm-based or business-based, because I have a business background as well. So, sometimes I step into house sits for people that have Airbnb businesses or vineyards, so I've done lots of that sort of stuff that require business skills as well as farming. So, yeah, I do a variety of stuff.
Great. Well, we'll have to hear more about where you've been later, because I know there are some fantastic spaces you've actually sort of inhabited. So in terms of my own experience, I have house sat. I tend to use it as a fabulous break between, sort of intensive work projects and so on. I've house sat in France and Spain, mainly, and in the UK. I'd like to do more house sitting. I've also had house sitters in my home. And in terms of what I look for when I look for a house sitter on our site is that I look for someone not just with experience, but someone who has an eye for detail. I like someone who pays attention to things that are important to the other person. And so they don't necessarily have to have experience, but they do need to care about stuff. And that's the most important thing for me. So I've house sitters in here really just looking after our garden and our plants, because we don't currently have pets. And actually, it's been really successful. It just means I come back and the plants aren't all dead, after a 2-week summer holiday. So it's worked out for us. And it's affordable, of course, because you save the money on a paid house sitter. It's a win-win. And that's the most important thing about this arrangement. It's a win-win. As long as you take certain precautions, you come to agreements ahead of time, you get to know each other sufficiently so that you're comfortable with the person, they're comfortable with you. You have a good method of communication, you understand each other. Actually, it works out really well. We've organized house sits for people in, I don't know, as far as Costa Rica, from Canada. There was a couple who stayed there for 9 months. The homeowner, this is a great story, the homeowner had built their ideal villa with a sea view, top of the jungle. It was, a half-an-hour sort of jungle drive into the town. It was just a beautiful architect design, ideal space. They get there, they live there for 1 month, and she decides she hates it. She absolutely hates it because it's utterly humid. She cannot bear it in the month of whatever it was, May. It's just awful. And so she realizes she can't spend the rest of her life there. She could spend between this month and this month, but she can't spend 12 months a year. So they used house sitters for 9 months of the year and then spent the 3 months they like there. So, you know, people have all kinds of motivations for joining the house sitting world, but most people find it very beneficial if you know, if they organize themselves well. Does anybody have any questions about the house sitting arrangement, whether you have pets or no pets? No? So Ray, you mentioned that your daughter is currently renting. I mean, that is quite expensive. And we do have homeowners who go away, as I've explained, for long periods. We had a homeowner recently in Estepona who sadly widowed. And so he had a very large villa. And he was living there on his own with 2 large dogs. And he was working 45 minutes away and needed somebody in the property. And actually, we found a couple who were happy to stay there with him, and they lived rent-free for a year. And they collaborated, they maintained the property for him, and they looked after the 2 dogs for him, because the dogs were very dear to him, but he couldn't be there all the time because of his commute and so on. So there are all kinds of reasons why people use house sitters, or even, you know, find house sitting. The couple themselves were semi-retired and wanted to see what it would be like living in Spain as opposed to the Netherlands, where they were originally from. And they didn't want to buy a property or expend the money for a rental until they'd sampled different areas. So 9 months or 12 months in a particular area actually suited them quite well. So I think your ideas are actually spot on. A lot of people are doing that increasingly, rather than making a huge investment without actually knowing what the area is like.
Yes. Well, she's been in Portals in Mallorca for 7 years, and she's been in the first one. This is only her second one where she is now. She was there for 4 years, and there was a marriage dispute by the owners, so part of their divorce, they sold the apartment, so she got this other one. This is her 2nd year there, but I'm anxious that she buys the place herself, but she said she won't come home. She's 33. She's a single girl. And of course, she's my little baby. So what do you do?
It's an opportunity for you to visit, maybe.
Yeah. Well, so that's what I'd like now for her.
Yes, I understand that. You want the best for her, the best arrangement.
My son has a wife, 2 children, 3 dogs, and a cat. He's taken them all, lock, stock, and barrel. I thought he'd leave the cat behind, or one of the dogs. They're the package, they're the family. So I'm looking for something for him.
Right, okay.
Open to all offers from anyone.
Okay, well, the way it works as a house sitter is he would need to register on the site as a house sitter with his family. He describes his family. The pets, it would be difficult to find a house sit for all of those pets, I have to be honest with you. We do have a few house sitters who travel with a single dog or a single cat. And that does work, actually. Sometimes there's an empty property and they want a single dog to make the house sound like it's occupied, even when the sitters are out. Okay. So, but you know, multiple pets is more difficult. He need to keep some somewhere first until, you know, and so on and so forth. But once he's registered, we then would check his identity. Mm-hmm. So there is an online system to do that. Mm-hmm. And then we also ask him for a police check. And again, we can do that through the system on the website at Housesit Match. Yes, and actually, the way we built it, you could do it from wherever you are in the world, just to make it easier for everybody. Then once he's police checked, he would need to build a profile, a little bit like Facebook, but with less personal details.
Yes.
More information about his experience with animals, caring for property, home ownership, that kind of thing.
Hugh is the type of guy, meticulous. He'd be going around at times with a dustpan, waiting for the dust to fall.
Sounds great. He'll have to come house sit for me.
It's unbelievable. But that's the way he is. And
It's good.
He'd only enhance any place,
Great.
and I mean that.
Yeah.
But the first year would be maybe the problem year, getting the right place, because he's not going to rush over and buy a place and then find out it's not the right area. But he's been in Mallorca twice a year for the past 7 or 8 years, over visiting Jill, my daughter. So I'll get him to come online to you and register, and maybe the same with Jill. And after that, it's in your borough.
Well, we'll do our best. You know, we mail all our homeowners on a regular basis to remind them that we're here for the service and offering them, you know, house sitters. The whole community is checked. We also check the homeowners to make sure that it's a safe environment for everybody.
Oh yeah, important.
And I get personally involved. Unlike other websites, I make myself available should there be a challenge or a problem of any kind. There rarely are issues, as I'm sure Jenny can testify. Most of the time things go pretty well because you are, as a house sitter, keen to make things work, and as a homeowner you want the relationship to work equally on both sides.
It has to.
Yeah, so it's because it's collaborative. It's you. I mean, Jenny, I'm sure you, in 5 years you'll have had some challenges, but what would you say about the percentage of challenges?
You know what? My challenges have been with the elements, and not with the homeowners. I have not had one bad experience with any homeowner. A homeowner hasn't had one bad experience with me. There's been no misunderstandings. So, you know, I think I've been a bit blessed in that area. But I was going to ask you in respect to Ray, it's sort of a couple of options, you know, that sound ideal for his son or daughter. Do you get many homeowners that are selling properties? So, you know, in the expat market, expats often have a home, a house, a holiday house and a home. and then they often, so I've had a lot of sits where with expats that have had 2 homes. And I look after their Spanish home when they're in Bath, and I look after their Bath home when they're in Spain. And so sometimes that dual house system is, it sounds like a good opportunity for your daughter. And then I've had other house sits where the home is actually being sold. So the one I was looking after in the jungle in Acamal in Mexico was a house that was being sold. The one I looked after in Hawaii was a house being sold. And that would be an ideal situation for your son, right? The only thing with houses being sold is that well, actually this would suit your son too if he's got the dustpan waiting for the dust. Is that, you know, you have open inspections, and so you've got your footprint in the house needs to be small so that you keep the place looking spick and span for inspection and stuff like that. So, you know, I don't know, Lamia, if you have, you know, some of those sorts of things on you, whether you get those sorts of things on your books or not, but they'd be suited to raise family.
We do sometimes get those. The challenge, of course, is that you need to be ready to move, you know, within a week or 2, as soon as the house actually is handed over to the new owner. But then we always ask house sitters to have a plan B. You know, you go into the house sit, everybody benefits because it's collaborative and it's, you know, a low cost way of exchanging services. But you must have a plan B. Yeah. Because stuff happens.
Yes. And yeah, but the sales process, you know, if the contract's exchanged, there's always a minimum of 30 days to 3 months, depending on what country you're in, as to how long settlement takes. So usually you don't, you know, if they get an offer, you're not booted out the next week. You know, there's usually a decent amount of time for your plan B, which is good.
Does anybody have any other questions?
I'll have my excuse me. I'll have my son and daughter register with you, and we'll take it from there.
That would be great. Thank you, Ray. That would be fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
No, not at all. And one of the interesting things I think post-COVID is I have had a couple of house sitters contact me and say, well, do you have any protocols for cleaning a property, and how is it going to work, you know? And so we've actually published guidelines in a blog about, you know, what to do, what to have ready in each room, any water-based rooms, what needs to be done on a regular basis, and so on. And I think most people seem very happy with that. I know the government haven't yet issued their guidelines in England, certainly, for rental properties, which is what we follow. But I'm sure they're coming any day now. But we've certainly published a set of guidelines we think are pretty sort of strict, and so people can vary them. I think one of the advantages of house sitting as well post-COVID is, you know, it's one home with one family, and you would be the other family in the bubble, or you would be the other couple or single in the bubble. So actually it kind of works out there as well, perhaps slightly preferable to a hotel or an Airbnb, which has, you know, multiple visitors and multiple residents over a period of time. So there's certainly advantages, I think, to house sitting in this period, and it's affordable, which a lot of people, I think, find enormous value. I mean, for the membership price of £69 for a year, you can actually get access to multiple house sits, you know, in sequence. So it's really is a fabulous way to indulge your pet sort of, you know, fancies. I have to say, we don't have pets, so whenever I go and house sit for, you know, people who have dogs or cats, I mean, I absolutely relish it. I love it because it's kind of a complete immersion in a pet family. And then I can say goodbye and you know, see you next year, Nuka, or whoever it is. You know, so it's really quite nice. So that's another advantage, really, especially, and actually some homeowners really like having children in the house because the children will actually entertain the pets. They will keep the pets stimulated and entertained and diverted, whereas perhaps with a single adult or a couple of adults who, you know, there's less likelihood that there'll be interaction with the pets. So that's another advantage of having a family house sitting.
It can be, that's true, that's true. But those are my thoughts anyway, and I'll have them contact you online.
Oh, that's great.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
So,
yes.
Thank you very much.
Oh, no, it's a pleasure.
Thank you to the audience.
No,
We'll
anytime.
talk to you again.
Okay, bye-bye, Ray.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye. So does anyone else have any other questions?
Well, no, I just wanted to say thank you, Lamia. I haven't got anything to share. As I said at the beginning, I just wanted to find out something. So thank you very much, ladies, for sharing your experiences, because there's nothing helps you understand the concept like, you know, actual true story. Yes, someone who's using it. So thank you very much.
Oh, no, it's no problem. I tell you what, before we go, I just want to hear a little bit from Jenny, because she's been staying in Mexico in a rather fantastic place. Jenny, tell us a little bit more about that. Would you mind?
No, happy to. I was saying to you before everyone else popped on that when COVID started, I asked myself, well, I had all my house sits obviously were cancelled or deferred. And I was meant to be spending 3 months in Hawaii for 2 regulars that I have there. And so I asked myself, where do I want to get stuck? Because I knew I was going to get stuck for a while. So I thought, well, Mexico. So I came down here. I didn't have any plans. Got to the airport and received a notification that a place 30 kilometres from where I was on my way to Tulum on the East Coast. And I thought I'd just have some R&R time and then work out the lay of the land. And yeah, so that was 30 kilometres away. So I contacted went through the notification application process and said, I'll be there tomorrow. So instead of having a phone call, I can come up and see you if you want. And so that all fell into place. And he was going to be with his wife for 3 weeks in Texas, in Houston. So they have 2 properties, and I was looking after his property in the jungle, the coastal jungle. It was a custom-made home, just only finished about probably 6 to 8 months ago. 2 pools, you know, a beautiful pool plus a plunge pool right at your front door. The jungle, you know, came right up to all around you. 2 gorgeous pups, a car, everything, you know, plus it had a casita. And so I was thinking, well, this is really great because, you know, I think he'll get stuck in Texas and I will be here for a while. But if he does get back from Texas, there's a casita. So I was going to ask if I could stay there. A casita is just a, you know, a little
Little
it's
house.
like a little,
Little chalet.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. It was totally off grid. So I had to do all my own power. I had a battery room of like 36 batteries. So, you know, you have to monitor that every day and do battery maintenance and make sure all that works efficiently. You have to pump your own water, but he's an engineer. So he had everything automated, you know, electricity, you know, the solar power, the water pumps, you know, everything was fully automated and it was a brand new home. So it was very beautiful. And I loved all my physical distancing was perfect there. And it was lovely. It ended up being 13 weeks. Unfortunately, the end of the sit got a bit hairy because, well, jungle, you do have your challenges. You've got to be okay with creepy crawlies, scorpions, snakes, tarantulas. But wet season came a little early because we had a hurricane off the coast, off the Gulf of Mexico. So I had flooding inside and out. I had pools going green. So because it's impossible with that amount of water to balance your pH, get your pH balanced. So, you know, I'm on the phone to the homeowner every day and, you know, sending backwards and forwards, you know, the chemical, the little testing kit, and, you know, between the 2 of us, we got it rebalanced. But it, you know, we had some hairy situations towards the end. And then when he came back, he went, wow, I've never seen this sort of weather before. I said, it's been crazy. I had trees fall, had to hone my machete skills with chopping down trees with, you know, chopping up trees with machetes. So, you know, I was Jenny of the jungle.
And you were house sitting on your own, Jenny?
Yes, I was.
Wow, fearless Jenny is what I'm going to call you from now on. Fearless.
Fearless. Oh, I don't know. I must admit, when I left, I was happy to leave. You know, I had pushed, I reckon I pushed myself probably 2 weeks beyond my comfort zone, but I learned a lot about myself in those last 2 weeks.
I bet you did. You should write a book about that. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it was a really wonderful experience. And I think, you know, the lessons there for me are know what you want, set an intention around it, and then, you know, trust and watch, you know.
That's really impressive. Well done. Gosh, my house sitting in Paris for 1 cat and outside of Paris for 4 dogs and 12 hens seems very, very humble by comparison to your jungle adventure. Bravo.
Lamia, don't get me wrong. I love cat and apartment sits. You know, they're nice. I mean, because I'm a permanent sitter, I go between taking myself outside my comfort zone to then having, you know, my next sit in San Miguel is with 2 little Maltese pups for a lady that's an artist. And so there's going to be no stepping into my courage zone there. It's just going to be, you know, a very easy, comfortable sit. And they're nice sits to do too. I love them.
Oh, great. Well, we actually have a couple of homeowners in San Miguel de Allende. So let me know if you're ever thinking of going there because there's some great places right in the center.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I am. I'm off there in 2 weeks. 2 weeks I'll be sitting for them for a month.
Oh, fantastic.
So definitely looking for places after that.
Great.
Because I'll be homeless. Well, not for long.
Not for long at all. Great. Well, thank you. That's inspiring. Absolutely inspiring story. Jenny of the Jungle.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you taking time today. It's been a lovely chat. Feel free to email me with any other questions you have. Until next time.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Liz.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for hosting.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye.